Let's take a closer look at what to expect from this make or break debate. We're joined by Neha Dewan, who is with South Asians for Harris. Kevin Madden is also with us. He served as senior advisor and spokesperson during Senator Mitt Romney's presidential bids. He was also on the team for President George W. Bush's re-election efforts. And we also have Ray Locker. He's an author and journalist also joining us on the program right now. Kevin, let me come to you first. For nearly a week, Kamala Harris has been in a Pittsburgh hotel spending hours of carefully choreographed debate practice. She even has an actor playing Donald Trump. On the other hand, Trump's campaign says things like he doesn't need a debate prep, he's all fine. Tell us a little bit about how the two sides are handling gearing up to Tuesday's big fight. I think if Neha, you heard that question, could you give us a reaction here or give us a little bit of information on how the two sides are preparing for the debate night tomorrow?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Vice President has been locked down in Pittsburgh. She has been doing mock responses. She even has somebody dressed up as Trump, from what I understand, and going back and forth, really being able to drill down the issues. President Trump, on the other hand, is campaigning during this time because he feels like he does not really need to debate. He's done it in the past. And I think it's easier for him to do that because he has lied, so many times during the debate. So he feels like this is something that he can just continue. So very different preparations for the debates tomorrow.
Kevin, hopefully we have you back here and you can hear me now. Kevin, you've been on presidential campaigns before. What really goes on behind the scenes before such a consequential moment leading up to what we're going to see tomorrow on Tuesday night? All right, we'll try and fix that for you. Ray, what can you tell us about what you're hearing Trump versus Harris as far as how they're preparing to meet each other on the debate stage Tuesday?
Well, Trump has gotten former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, who sparred with Harris during the 2020 campaign during the Democratic primary debates. So he thinks that's going to be his silver bullet against Harris here. Harris is working with her team of a variety of surrogates to stand in for Trump. And the fact is, I'm not really sure how much of that's really going to matter when it gets right down to it.
All right. Neha, let's talk a little bit about the debate rules, okay? Now, Harris's team really wanted those mics unmuted throughout the debate. That's not happening Tuesday night.
Trump is a confound.
Why was it so important, remind us, for Harris to have the mics stay hot or live and not be muted?
Yeah, so I think, as a prosecutor, she's used to having a dialogue and going back and forth and really having the opportunity to be able to come back and, say whatever needs to be said and really highlight the issues. In this sense, she's not able to do that, right? So it's very difficult for somebody who's been in that position to sort of it just be an answer and a rebuttal. And I think part of it is also, you've seen Trump sort of go off the deep end and be able to name call and do all of these things. And I think for his campaign, it's probably better to have it muted so he's not engaging in those kinds of activities and he comes across as more presidential. So really, it's a very different strategy based on, the level of dialogue.
Right. Ray, of course, one of the most memorable debate moments for Harris was when Harris faced Mike Pence in 2020. She emphatically stopped Mike Pence from interrupting her, saying, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. Said it twice. That, though, unlikely to happen on Tuesday with those muted microphones.
Yeah, definitely. Who knows?
All right, I think, Neha, like you were saying, those muted microphones likely disadvantage to Kamala Harris. So how do you think she's going to get around that? She was hoping to have those microphones hot. That's not happening. So what's the strategy now? Just let, hopefully, Trump just ramble on, perhaps, and her microphone picking it up?
I mean, I think it does. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. She's not able to do it, I think this is just something that she's been used to doing all of her life. But that doesn't negate the fact that she's prepping extensively, working on the issues. She's been around the country, hearing from voters what it is that matters, and I think really being able to lay out that platform. So this is just another thing that would have been great because this is what she's used to, but that's not taking away from how she's going to perform tomorrow.
All right, Kevin, I think we have you back here. So even though Trump may not have had a stand-in actor like Harris has, his team is fielding him with some very tough questions, according to reports. His criminal indictments, accusations of sexual misconduct against women. What's the best way really for Trump to deal with this kind of thing? He's not going to own it. He's never said sorry. He's not going to. He's in a legal tangle. So how does one really get around these issues on the debate stage?
Well, look, I think for Trump, his strategy is going to be very simple. As everybody probably agrees, Trump doesn't have a very sophisticated debate strategy or a sophisticated debate preparation. What he does best is probably not answer the question, but answer the topic. The topics that really are going to motivate the voters around the country that are going to make or break this election are pretty straightforward. It's about the economy. The inflation that's driving the economy, some of the price increases, things like housing, and then also the main issue that Trump has used to not only rally his base, but also try to persuade a lot of independent voters in some of these battleground states is the issue of immigration. So I think Trump's strategy is going to be very clear. Forget about what the specifics of the question are. Seize upon the topic and the opportunity to talk about those issues that matter to swing voters. At the end of the day, that's the most important part of this debate, which is this is going to come down to about a couple 100,000 voters around the country. And you talk about the issues that are driving them and shaping their anxiety every single day. Whoever does that best, whether it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, they're going to be the ones that win the election. So using this debate opportunity to focus on those issues, that's going to be the key.
Ray, in previous debates, or the debate between Biden and Trump on CNN, there was no real-time fact-checking by the debate hosts. Do you think that's okay? Let the country judge for themselves who the candidates are. They can tell the difference between lies and truth. Or would you argue that the average person won't be up with the issues and it's the duty really of the moderators of the debate to fact-check the lines and the falsehoods?
I don't think viewers like to see fact-checking live. I think they see that as somebody putting their thumb on the scale. And I think most people can tell whether or not somebody's telling the truth. I mean, look, we all know that Trump tells a lot of lies. He told more than 30,000 when he was president. And so I don't think people really expect the truth from him. It's as Kevin said, does he touch on issues that people care about, whether I happen to believe that they're the right issues or not? And if he does that well enough, then he'll win. Most of the time, though, I think people look at the candidate's demeanor, they compare the two. They don't really care so much about issues as well as, do I feel comfortable with this person? And I think on Trump's side, in Trump's case, people are not as comfortable with him as they were before. Harris has to make them feel more comfortable with her, and that sets up the contrast.
All right, Neha, Kevin, and Ray, do stay with us. We'll come back to you in just a few minutes. But first, let's take a look at Trump promising what some see as revenge politics. Now, Trump has pledged long-term prison sentences for those involved in what he described as unscrupulous behavior concerning the upcoming election. In essence, implying without evidence, though, that the election might be stolen from him. This marks the first indication that Trump may not accept the results if he loses in November. His remarks have drawn widespread condemnation, with many warning that such messaging could incite violence again.
Former US President Donald Trump continues to make controversial statements in the run-up to the all-important presidential debate. In the latest, he has threatened prosecution and long-term prison sentences for election officials and political operatives who he suggested could cheat in the 2024 election if he again wins the presidency in November. Falsely claiming Democrats engaged in fraudulent behavior in 2020, Trump said that he was watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely and that those people that cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is the latest escalation in Trump's language concerning the alleged election fraud. Early voting is set to begin in the coming weeks in some states. Trump has repeated many times his false claims that widespread fraud had affected the outcome of the 2020 election. Trump has also repeatedly called for action against people who he believes have wronged him. In the wake of his indictment by the U.S. Justice Department in 2023, Trump had vowed to have a real special prosecutor who would go after the president, Joe Biden, and his family if he won the presidency. Despite Trump's repeated claims there is no evidence of voter fraud, Trump had lost to Joe Biden by more than 7 million votes in the last election. On the other hand, Trump faces his own charges over election interference. Vishal Vivek reports for NDTV World, Bureau Report.
Well, let's get some quick reactions on this. Our guest still with us. Kevin, it's very likely that Harris is going to bring up those latest comments from Trump on the debate stage. How much of a problem is it for Trump to really stay on message because his advisors want him to stick to policy and not really meander on things that might potentially cost him the election?
And the biggest challenge for Donald Trump when it comes to persuading audiences of undecided voters. Look, the Donald Trump profile that most voters find incredibly toxic is the one that is very focused on divisiveness, is focused on blaming one party against the other, and is always focused on relitigating the past. And any reference to the 2020 election, how he's been wronged by his political opponents, it takes the focus off of the main thing that has made Donald Trump successful, which is that he's viewed by many voters as a vehicle for confronting the status quo in Washington that may be out of touch with the concerns of everyday Americans. So the only time he's actually really been successful is when he's able to harness that message when it comes to immigration, the economy, taxes, national security, you name it. That's where he's always found his greatest success. And the interesting thing is, more often than not, he gets in the way of his own success by focusing on the past and focusing on issues that aren't at the core of what a lot of swing voters or pragmatic independent voters care about. And this election comes down to those voters.
Indeed. Neha, some might say that the comments that we just heard from Trump in that story that played out, that Trump is just being Trump, he's playing to his MAGA base. Do you agree with that? Because in a podcast a few days ago, Trump admitted that he lost the 2020 election by a whisker. So is this something that really worries you, or should we just shrug it off?
I mean, absolutely, right? I mean, he's playing to his base, but to what extent? There's continuous lies, and folks who are not in the political realm or are not, deep versed in policy. I mean, this is what they're going to just accept. So it is very concerning, and you can't just say, well, this is his personality and let's just do that. I mean, this is a person who's dealing with foreign dignitaries on a regular basis and is, being, you have cabinet secretaries and so on and so forth. I mean, it's not excusable. The demeanor is absolutely not excusable.
Right. Some more reaction, but let's just take a look at the polls that came out over the weekend. We just wanted to take a look at what those election polls are saying. Things remain really neck and neck. The latest New York Times Siena poll found that Trump is leading Kamala Harris nationally by 48 to 47%. Basically, a coin toss. Now, the poll confirms that Trump maintains solid support from roughly half of the country's voters, but Harris has yet to achieve a significant breakthrough. The poll also shows Harris is slightly ahead in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and tied in 4 other key swing states: Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, and Arizona. Ray, Harris saw a bump in the polls after the initial, let's say, euphoria once Biden stepped aside, but not much movement since, really. So Trump's support remaining robust, very resilient, a problem, do you think, for Harris at this point in time?
It's stubborn and it's never going to change. I mean, look.
Okay, I think we lost Ray there again. I'll put that question to Neha. Neha, do you think that this is a problem right now? So Harris, of course, one could say, it depends, glass half empty, glass half full. So she's been resilient, staying put in terms of the poll numbers, but yet not being able to move ahead.
No, so the polls are within the margin of error. So it's hard to say, well, 48, 47 overall, or what it is that's indicative right now. We have 8 weeks to go. I think she's still speaking to voters and speaking about her policies in ways that they might be different from the Biden administration, what she would do during her term. So that's still taking place. So I wouldn't just write it off and say, all right, well, this is what it's going to be 8 weeks from now. She's still having those conversations in these battleground states. And I think that's what's going to make a difference.
All right, Kevin, you're with Penta Group, a company that provides data-driven insights. Penta has been tracking candidate visibility in swing states in terms of media exposure. Now, you found that Harris's media coverage generally spiked over the past 30 days, give or take, and yet, despite all of that and the Democratic convention, Harris has not been able to make much gains in terms of the polls. So the race pretty much neck and neck. So all of this happening, but the publicity not really helping Harris, do you think?
Well, look, I think, first of all, that the Harris campaign over those first 60 days of her entrance into the race after Joe Biden had dropped out were among the best 60 days a candidate's ever had in presidential politics. Just enormous visibility in swing states and also related to sentiment, just very positive media coverage. But one of the tactical mistakes that the Harris campaign has made has been that they sort of took a tack that this was a vibes-only election, and that that good sentiment had a longer sort of staying power. What we found out is that there's one guarantee that was always going to be certain in this campaign was that it was going to be close. That's happened. We're now back to a neck-and-neck race, and the euphoria of Joe Biden dropping out and a new candidate not named Biden or Trump entering the race, that's gone. And what we have is a real contest. The challenge that Harris has is she still is an empty vessel or a blank slate to a lot of voters. And so she's avoided the media. Right. She's avoided sort of opportunities to more directly sort of fill in the blanks. And now Trump has an opportunity to fill in those blanks for her in one debate in 90 minutes. So that's going to be one of the big challenges, and that's really what I expect to be why you're going to see a very aggressive Donald Trump in this debate and over the next 8 weeks all the way to Election Day.
Okay, Ray, I'm going to give you the last word. Very quickly, in 2016, polls showed that Clinton easily won all the 3 debates against Donald Trump, but yet, at the end, she lost the elections. How much would you say that these debates really matter?
Well, I don't think they're determinative. I think they help. I hope they give people a better idea of what Harris is all about. As Kevin said, a lot of it's on her to make people feel comfortable with her. And I don't think they're expecting Trump to do great in this, to fill in some of the blanks that exist with her record.